By the end of this video, you'll have an idea of what it looks like to become a product manager in tech. I'm going to talk about my experience leading me up into choosing this career path, some resources, lessons learned, a bunch of goodness like that. Let me know if you find these kinds of videos helpful or have any specific questions down in the comments below. So let's start out with a quick background on me in case you're new here or just generally to remind us where I'm coming from to set the scene. I was a computer science major in college. I started coding when I was in high school, and computer science just felt like the natural path for me. I only held software engineering internships. That is where my product management story obviously stems from and starts with. I was president of the Women in Computer Science Club. I did student government from middle school through high school into college. I loved doing leadership roles, and that was definitely something that started to get me, again, more interested into product management, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get a bit further. Besides that, in terms of interest, obviously, huge interest in technology. It was definitely a goal of mine that I didn't even realize until I started college. I wanted to be at the forefront of a lot of the innovation that was happening, and the best place to do that was a big tech company. So let's talk about how I discovered product management in the first place. My internship in my junior year of college, I was a software engineering intern. I actually ended up working part-time alongside classes, extended my summer internship. And my manager, who then eventually switched managers, became more of a mentor to me, was a product manager. Her and I were talking, and she was like, hey, have you ever thought about, doing some sort of product management, engineering management? Is that a career path you've explored? And this was me entering my senior year of college. So I was definitely getting to that point of like, hey, time to keep looking for a full-time job, what you're going to start your career out doing. She was kind enough to set me up with a couple of the PMs in our organization. I chatted with them. It was still pretty hard to define what a product manager actually does, but I started to feel like an interest kind of personality match with these different PMs. So I was like, okay, let me try and learn more. And at that time, I think I started to see more tech influencers pop up. And now it's ironic that I'm doing this too, but I started to follow a lot of product managers on TikTok and Instagram to see a little bit more of what their day-to-day looked like. After I watched all of these different day in my life, I started to be like, okay, this sounds good. So after deciding that, okay, I want to become a product manager, then I needed to rely on some sort of structured approach. Ultimately, to learn anything, I feel like it's a little hard to do that without any sort of formula or structure in front of you. So what I did was I started out by reading various product management based books. That was just an easy way for me to get the overall insight of what it means to be a product manager. One that I loved was Cracking the PM Interview. I'll leave a list of all of my top book recs that's on my Substack. I generally love always consuming podcasts, books, media. I think that's one of my favorite ways to actually learn. Definitely recommend borrowing a book, buying the book, reading it, and then trying to understand a little bit more of what the role looks like. Product management is very vague, so it can be difficult to get an idea without trying again, learning from all these different resources. So after I read all these books, then I started to dive into what the actual interview process would look like. There are so many amazing frameworks that I could also make a video on, so let me know if you guys are interested. But things like the circles method, how to answer these different product design, strategy style questions is also a great way to get an idea of what the role might look like, but also just understand a better idea of the skill set that you need. I was interviewing for both software engineering and product management roles at the time. So I feel like in that sense, I was uncertain of exactly how much effort I should be putting into each, but I did feel like product management interviews came to me a lot more naturally. I did have a couple of software engineering offers full-time, and then a couple of product management offers full-time. So at that time frame, it was like, okay, am I going to go down the software engineering route or the product management route? And the biggest thing that made a clear choice for me was thinking about the challenges that are inevitably a part of any role. As a product manager, the sort of difficulty that you face, which is often taking ownership for when things go wrong, having to be the face that takes various forms of blame, having to give specific direction to engineers without being the one that actually gets to like code it out and write it. Those sorts of challenges were ones that I was interested in taking and willing to take, versus I think a lot of the difficulties that I ran into and saw with software engineers were ones that I was less motivated to push through. I loved when code worked right and when things worked out perfectly, but inevitably, a key part of the software engineering process is dealing with bugs and issues, and that was something that I didn't really feel particularly motivated by. So, for that reason, thinking about both the pros and the cons of any role, but especially trying to fixate on when things are challenging, how motivated do I feel? It felt like product management was a very clear answer for me. In terms of just a typical structure that I would recommend for anyone interested in getting into this field, one, I would start out by doing your research of finding influencers that are product managers, reading the books, and then making that clear decision of, okay, is this something that I actually feel passionate about and something I want to dive into? After you've committed yourself to that, then get into looking what interviews look like. And one of the best things you can do for yourself, whether you're in school or you're looking to pivot already as someone who works full time, is actually building out a product. That is going to make your resume that much stronger. That's going to show you actually what it means to build a product. And on top of that, I think that's a level of experience that you might not even get when you're working full time. Creating something end to end will be super gratifying and exciting as a product manager. So I highly, highly recommend trying to put on that PM hat and see what it feels like. And again, great experience to have on your resume for when you're applying to these jobs either way. And then after that, it's all about just applying and networking and trying to meet people that are working at companies that you also feel motivated to work at. A little cliche, but a lot of people are motivated by impact. And I think people that are really obsessed with that and seeing like the customer point of view or just how their work is directly affecting people, product managers have an excellent view of that. So if that is something you're into, highly, highly recommend. And beyond that, I think product management is such a broad role in a way that you can come from so many different backgrounds and still find your way in product. If you are in school, I definitely always would say that you should try out different types of internships to have that experience of only doing something for a couple of months. If you learn you love it or hate it, that is such a valuable experience to have. On top of that, maybe if you want to travel, if the internship's based out of Texas or Seattle or anything like that, go live somewhere new for a couple months. Think if you want to relocate, think if you prefer working in person, remotely. All of these factors are super important when it comes to starting your full-time job. And of course, you don't need to have this all figured out in college. You can figure this out at any point in time. So definitely keep your mind open, keep learning, keep changing. Final note here is that I will say AI is definitely impacting all kinds of roles, every kind of role, especially in the tech industry. So something I've been looking into a bit more has been product engineering. I feel like that's the hot title right now. This is something that I want to understand a bit more deeply as well. So if you're interested in that, let me know any questions, videos you might want to see. I've been starting to take a couple more design-focused courses. With that, that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, hopefully there is some nuggets of knowledge in that. I will be super active looking at any comments here, so make sure to leave them down below and have an amazing day. Bye, guys.